The end of winter. The sun, rising higher and higher with each day, warms the ground. Incoming masses of warm air mercilessly deal with the remains of the snow. The meltwater soaks the frozen soil with life-giving energy. In the forests, meadows and fields, vegetation starts to grow tentatively at first. Initially, barely sprinkled with geophyte blossom, it suddenly bursts into all shades of bright green, sometimes interspersed with the white of blossoming plums and cherries. There are more leaves on the trees, and the grass and flowering herbs are already reaching our knees. A green abundance of valuable biomass. It is obvious that organisms must have evolved in such an environment and learned to take advantage of this bounty. Life of the forest, the great herbivores. An abundant food supply is needed for such giants to sustain themselves. The basis of their diet is herbaceous plants and grasses, of which an adult bison eats up to 60 kilograms a day. This amount of nourishment has to find an outlet sooner or later. Coprophages, insects that live in feces, benefit from this. By feeding on them, they decompose matter so that it is more quickly recycled, fertilizing the soil on which the plants in turn thrive. Bison are perfectly adapted to the uptake of meadow vegetation. The species was close to extinction last century. Fortunately, thanks to measures taken by scientists, this was prevented. Polish naturalists and foresters also played a large part in this. It is summer. Vegetation has reached its peak. In Rhodia, the heat period begins. It takes place during the summer canicule, usually at the end of July, beginning of August. Males show territorial behavior and associated aggression towards competitors. They also often mark their territory. When rubbing their antlers, they leave frontal gland secretions on the vertical stems. Courtship takes place in pairs and involves chases ending in copulation. Pregnancy in roe deer lasts 10 months. For the first 5, there is a latent pregnancy phenomenon. This allows for the young to be born in spring, when weather conditions are favorable and food is plentiful. Free-living wild horses. It is an unusual sight. The ancestors of the Polish Konik were wild tarpans. At the end of the 18th century, tarpans from the Białowieża forest were captured and placed in the zoo of the Zamoyski counts, and later found their way into the hands of peasants from the surrounding areas. In the first half of the 20th century, work began on rebuilding the breed, giving it the common name Polish Konik. These horses perform excellently in landscape maintenance. By selectively eating plants, they create conditions for the development of diverse flora and fauna, themselves being an attractive element of native nature. The elk, which until recently mainly inhabited vast marshes, is increasingly expanding its range. Today, apart from high mountain areas, we can come across it almost all over Poland. It prefers wetlands and marshy areas where it finds a suitable feeding base. At the beginning of September, male elks look for female companions. The bull does not gather females around him, but accompanies one for several days. The elk is the largest representative of cervids in the world. Adults can reach a weight of 600 kilograms. Young males lead a migratory lifestyle, searching for new territories. In areas where elk are found, collisions with cars are common, which can be tragic for both parties. At the beginning of autumn, menacing cries spread through the forest. Mysterious silhouettes loom in the morning mist. The red deer have begun their several-week-long mating rut. The nights become cool, and the first frosts appear in the mornings. The drop in temperature has a stimulating effect on the start of mating. Deer reach sexual maturity in their second year of life, but bulls usually start breeding in their fifth year. During the rutting season, they try to gather as many females around them as possible and protect them from rivals hovering nearby. Sometimes duels occur and the defeated rival flees the battlefield. Bull deer do not feed at all during the rut, which lasts up to 4 weeks, drinking only water. During this time, they lose up to 20% of their weight. After mating, they retreat to their refuges to regenerate. Closely related to red deer, fallow deer are much smaller than them, but the two species are often confused by the public. They are characterized by a relatively long black tail that stands out clearly against the white rump patch. Fallow deer are not part of our native fauna. Their homeland is Asia Minor. As a result of a long breeding process, a large variety in the coloration of the individuals has developed, ranging from almost black to not uncommonly appearing completely white. In early autumn, groups of males living together gradually break up and former companions become rivals. The mating period, because of the noises made by the bulls, is called bekowisko, rutting season in Polish. In our climate, the rutting season falls later than for deer, continuing until the end of November. Winter is a hard time for all animals. For herbivores, The time of prosperity has passed. The flora of temperate climates has finished growing. Herbaceous plants have died under the influence of low temperatures. The remains of dry grasses still make for good food, provided they are not covered by a thick layer of snow. Bark and shoots from some trees and shrubs supplement the diet in late winter and early spring. Salt licks set up in forests are an important source of micronutrients, necessary for proper growth and maintenance. Minerals are in short supply in winter feed, so ruminants are keen to use these resources to supplement their diets. During this period, there can be considerable damage to forest crops caused by hungry deer. The damage is caused by so-called bark stripping, which is the stripping of bark from young forest trees. This behavior is particularly intense in the pre-spring, during the period of increased animal demand for water and mineral salts. Bark stripping is prevented by fencing off the forest crops, lubricating the trees with preparations that make the shoots less palatable, or by placing special guards on the trees. In the pre-spring, roe deer still stay in small herds, known in Polish as rudle. They number from a few to several dozen individuals. While feeding on winter crops, they remain vigilant, with usually at least one watching the area. Multiple pairs of eyes and ears give them a sense of security, allowing them to spot a problem earlier and move away in time. Unlike bison antlers, deer antlers are shed every year. In red deer, this takes place in late February, early March, but in young bulls later, as late as April. After just a few weeks, the antlers start to grow back again. It is covered by a skin with velvety bristles, called the velvet, which is then very sensitive. Deer avoid any collisions involving the head during this period. Herds of roe deer are gradually breaking up into smaller and smaller groups. The animals stay in the fields, taking advantage of the morning sunshine. Some deer bucks with already advanced antlers in their velvet are wandering alone in the area, occupying future territories. The Owl Mountains in the Sudeten Massif. Mouflons. The original range of these sheep was in Asia Minor, and they later colonized the islands of the Mediterranean. From there, they found their way to Central Europe in the early 18th century through human activity. Mouflons have an impressive head ornament in the form of curled horns, snail-like horns. They grow throughout the animal's life and are only found in males, called rams. In the pre-spring, mouflons often graze in mid-forest meadows and fields, forming loose herds, known in Polish as kierdle. The future of this species in the Polish mountains is uncertain. More than 100 years after their introduction, mouflons have not adapted to our conditions. Without breeding support, while the wolf population grows, local herds will gradually disappear. A declining population also translates into increased inbreeding. This, in turn, carries the risk of genetic diseases in future generations. Spring in the temperate climate zone. After long months of winter stagnation, the time of plenty has arrived. All sorts of mandibles and jaws have gone into action. This prosperous period must, of course, coincide with birth. This is the best time for the emergence of the younger generation. Female deer give birth to their first young in their 3rd year. One, rarely 2 calves are born in hiding. Able to wander, the cub follows its mother, which happens after a few days, and joins the herd with her. The yellowish-white spots on the sides and back of the young disappear in autumn. The calves feed on their mother's milk for several months, staying with her for the longest time until they are 2 years old. In elk, almost half of the young die in the first 2 months of life. Those that manage to survive will remain with their mother for another year. The roe deer are also expecting offspring. Unfortunately, it often happens during this period that cubs found by people, mistakenly thought to be abandoned, are brought to wildlife rehabilitation centers. Nothing could be further from the truth. The mothers leave the unscented cubs in a secluded place and move away to the feeding ground themselves. However, they return several times a day to feed them. Interference by taking the cubs usually results in the inability of such an animal to return to the wild. Found youngsters should also not be touched, as leaving our scent on their fur can attract predators. A female bison leaves the herd before giving birth and returns to it only with a calf which is a few days old. She usually gives birth to one calf once every 2 years. The young is cared for by the entire herd, which stands up in solidarity to defend each individual in case of danger. Deer antlers grow very quickly, reaching their largest size in early summer. A similar process occurs in fallow deer and elk. The males now need a lot of building material obtained from food. After 100 days, the tissue surrounding the developed antlers begins to die. The skin detaches from the bone in bloody shreds, causing persistent itching. Male deer thus rub them against bushes and young trees. The bulls rub their antlers on the branches to clean them of the remains of their skin, while giving them their characteristic color, obtained from plant pigments and coagulating blood. Deer are skittish and have a very good sense of smell and hearing. In Poland, they can be found in all major forest complexes. They are happy to take mud baths in the so-called babrzyski. This allows them to get rid of skin parasites. The doe, together with her calves, forms herds called throngs. They are led by an old, experienced female, the leading hind. Deer often go out into agricultural fields. They can cause significant damage to agricultural crops. Here, a group of bachelor deer eagerly prey on winter crops. Herbivores perform a very important function in nature. Through their activities, they enable the growth of many open space plants, preventing excessive succession of trees and shrubs. This creates niches that are readily occupied by other animals, such as birds or invertebrates, thus helping to sustain biodiversity. By virtue of their feeding preferences, they significantly increase the cycle of matter. They are a very important part of the trophic pyramid, themselves being food for the predators and scavengers that hunt them. Above all, they are beautiful animals. Their presence in the landscape carries great aesthetic value. We like to look at them. It is even hard to imagine fields observed from behind a car window without the presence of roe deer, and the spectacular rutting season is part of the peculiarity of our forests, providing an unforgettable experience for autumn nature watchers.